Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and we are on part 2 of a 5-part series called Mid-Year Comeback. And today we are going to talk about reclaiming your vision. So if you are just hopping in, we are in, again, part 2 of a 5-part series. If you want to go back and listen to part 1, I think it will be helpful, but I definitely think you can get what you need in this particular space because reclaiming your vision is really about realigning your goals with the back half of the year based on the audit we did in part 1. Now that I say that, you probably need to go listen to part 1, right? Because we spent some time really auditing where are we, right? What's going on? How far along, like, you know, what hasn't, and really kind of accepting where we are. And so now that we have taken that inventory, and that's why I wanted to give you a couple of days before I delivered this next lesson, is because I wanted us to really spend some time thinking through what's actually going on, right? What has happened, what hasn't happened, where am I on track, where am I off track? Because again, negativity bias makes it so we tend to see the gap more than we tend to see the really cool shit that we've done. So I'm really excited to hear how that is all coming up for you guys. A couple of housekeeping things before I dive into today's teaching. Remember, you do have an opportunity to win 7 days of messenger support from yours truly. It is my Energy Shift one-on-one mentorship for 7 days. It's a $588 value. And I'm going to give 2 spots away. You get registered to win those spots. You have 2 opportunities. Number 1 is to just go review the podcast. So wherever you listen, Spotify, Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts now, I think is what it's called, or YouTube. So any review, screenshot, send it to me. We'll enter you in the drawing. And then if you share the podcast series, if you're listening and you're getting value out of this, and there's somebody else in your community that is looking for a mid-year comeback, if you do that, I will also enter you in that drawing. So again, screenshot that, share it with me via messenger or email, and we'll get you entered and we'll give away 2 of those spots. So those 2 things are important. And then also there is some stuff happening behind the scenes inside of the Facebook community. I'm giving you some journal prompts, some ideas, some things to really dig into in here. So to create this a little bit more of a course style vibe, that's happening in the Facebook group. It's not required, but if you want to take that deep dive and have an opportunity to ask some specific questions about what's coming up for you in this workshop, the Facebook group is the place to do that. It is the Uncensored Self Backstage Pass. So that is the housekeeping. Let's dive in. My goal is to keep us under 20 minutes today. My notes say that I will, but we're going to see how this goes. Okay. So episode 2 is Reclaim the Vision, right? And we really want to connect with our true and aligned vision by releasing the realistic, past-based, or inherited goals and really reclaiming our power to create moving forward, right? Like that's what lesson 1 was really about. How do we dive into this? How do we get rid of all of that shit and then really reclaim our power? So, we started with reflection and acceptance. And the reason why I think this part is so important is because we can't cast a meaningful vision until we've accepted where we are, right? We talked a lot about resistance in the first lesson of when what we resist persists, right? So we have to come to acceptance before we can really cast vision, because then what we have a tendency to do when we cast vision from resistance, this is important, please listen. When we cast vision from resistance, most of the time, the goal is just to not be here, right? I want to not be here. And that's not a clear vision, right? A clear vision is this is where I'm going, right? Just, I'd rather not be here. So it's really important here that we move into no resistance, no guilt, no shame, just really full ownership of the present moment, right? So the truth about vision, and I shared this a little bit in episode 1, but I'm going to go deeper here with you, is that most of the time, the vision that we want isn't even ours. Right? So we talked about whether it's realistic or based on what you've already done. But what I also think happens, it also comes from a place of should. I should want this. All the other people who are successful in my industry want this. Or all the other people who I hang out with have this, or this is the expected next step, or this is what my spouse thinks I should want, or whatever the case may be. It's just a lot of the time when I really get to the heart of it with the women I work with, it's like, what do you want? They're like, I don't, so-and-so wants, I don't want this, like really getting into this vision of what's mine and what is other people's. And so a very specific story of that for you. If you've been around for a while, you've heard my story, but I had a $1.2 million year and everything broke. Like that was really the straw that broke the camel's back in my like nervous system's inability to hold, I hit max capacity. And, but at that time, I was very money driven, and it was all about the car, the house, the experience, the optics. What does it look like? The bougie vacations, right? Like, it was just very superficial and it was very materialistic. And I'm not judging anybody. Like, I have a client whom I love with my whole heart who a G Wagon is on her vision board. I'm not mad, right? I just realized that the reason why I wanted those things is because that's what I equated success and wealth to, because that was my programming, right? My programming had a very specific thing of this is what wealth looks like, or this is what success looks like. And so in really evaluating that through my personal development journey, I've realized that success for me looks a little bit different, at least in this season, right? Like, when it comes to me, it's not just about the money and the flashy and the optics. For me, it's about how does it feel? What does it look like? How much time do I get to spend with my kids, right? Like, for me, I'm just in a much simpler phase of life of what is really important to me. But I think that's why I had to go through what I went through to really appreciate that simplicity, because I'm not sure, and I've said this before, like, I'm not sure I would have stopped chasing money if I didn't go on the journey the way that I did. So I share that with you very intentionally, because oftentimes we'll discover that, like, no, I don't actually even want to live in that neighborhood. Like, I don't like the people in that neighborhood, or you thought about, like, we were joking about the car the other day in business therapy in one of our calls. Is like, in my mind, if I'm driving a $250,000 car, I keep it clean. And the version of me I am today does not keep my car clean. Like, once a month, I take my car in, and Derek pays for a membership and gives me shit because I don't use it often enough. But I take my car in and I vacuum all of the dog hair and the gravel and the dirt that gets in my car from all of the walking and the hiking we do. I wipe down my seats because there's mud all over them from the dogs and the kids. I take out all the snack wrappers and everything. I do that once a month. I'm not a $250,000 car girl right now. Like, that's just not the season of life that I'm in. And that's okay, right? And again, there's no judgment about what you want. It's, why do you want it? Because for me, so many of those things were not, I wanted them because it was something I had always wanted. I wanted it because that's what I thought success looked like. So when it comes to reclaiming the vision, we have to really align. And especially, and what's coming through to share right now is this idea of more on top of more. I've been having a lot of conversations lately with women who are feeling a little overcommitted, right? They're like, I'm being pulled in 800 different directions, and I feel like I'm doing a shit job in all of them. But again, when it comes back to asking the question, what's the vision and why are you saying yes to these things? It's often out of obligation, out of because I can. It's because they asked, out of people pleasing, because I didn't want to hurt so-and-so's family or feelings, because last time so-and-so, I asked so-and-so for a favor, they said yes, because I felt like if I didn't say yes, they wouldn't ask me again. So many of these things start to come up, and that's how we wind up with these overfull calendars and overcommittedness that is totally clouding our vision. Like, vision is not just about saying yes, it's also about saying no. And I think that's such an important part of this is, are you fully aligned with where you're going? And is the vehicle you're in the vehicle you want to be in, right? Or have you picked up some shit along the way that isn't yours? So that's what's really, really important about this conversation. So I really want you to anchor into, am I setting goals based from like realistic or from desire, from past or present, from other people? Like, really getting clear and reclaiming this vision of making sure this is my vision, and giving yourself permission to be a little selfish here. Right? So we want to anchor it into forward creation. Okay. We really want to anchor it into that. And the questions I want you to ask yourself as we actually start setting some tangible things that we want, it starts with obviously, what do I actually want, which we just covered, but then what do I want it to feel like? This is the question, guys, that I think could have saved so much time, so much heartache, so much shit if somebody had asked me, what do you want it to feel like, Rye? Because I had the optics and the metrics, right? Like, I knew I want to make X amount of dollars, blah, 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 blah. All of that I was very clear on, right? But I didn't ask myself the question, how do I want it to feel? And as you've heard me say before, the way you build it is the way it's going to feel when you get there. So when I built a $1.2 million business from overwhelm, anxiety, stress, frustration, chaos, doing work I did not love and that did not excite me, I was not able to hold that amount of abundance of money because my nervous system was so fried, right? Like, it was so out of alignment with what I wanted. And so again, I had achieved the metrics, like the external metrics of money, houses, cars. Like, I was on track for that vision that I had just shared with you. But what I wound up feeling was resentful and frustrated and angry, disconnected. I was unhealthy. My relationships were suffering. I didn't really have friends. Like, it was not a good place to be for me. And so that's why I just wish that somebody at the beginning hadn't just said, how much money do you want to make? And okay, let's go do that. If somebody said, how do you want it to feel? Because you have to build it in the energy that you want it to be. So if you want it to feel fun, you've got to build it in a fun way. And I want to clarify, you guys don't need this, but this is going to give you peace of mind, because what I think the world tends to think is when we say that we want to build a business that feels good, people mistake that for I don't want to work. And it could not be farther from the truth. That could not be farther from the truth. Most of you are working because you love the work that you do, or there's some impact or drive inside of you that really makes you want to create something beautiful. Even if the work is not your passion, you're still using the vehicle of work, your career, your business, whatever it is, to fuel your passion, to fuel your life, right? Like, and we tend to forget that part, you know? So when we think of it from that perspective, from this place, like, how do I want this to feel? You know, it's like, I don't want to not work. I want to do work I enjoy. You know, I don't want to do nothing. I just don't want to torture myself, right? Like, I'm in a season of life where I'm willing to grow the business a little bit slower by doing it really intentionally, you know, but that's a choice that I made because I want it to feel natural and normal, and like bigger, better, faster, stronger crushed me. And so I'm like, well, let's just go with like a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And that has been so helpful for me because I know how I want it to feel. I want it to feel expansive. I want it to feel exciting. I want it to stretch me a little bit, but I don't want it to be so big that I feel like I can't hold it. So I have to be mindful of that in the way that I'm building and the decisions that I make, right? So when we're casting vision, it's not just what do I want materialistically? What do I want the outcome to be? We really want to focus on how do I want it to feel? I want it to feel fun. Cool. What's fun? And going back to that spurred this thought was sometimes you're going to work a lot of hours. Intentional reality creation doesn't make it so that never happens. What happens when you are in flow is that the work doesn't feel like obligation and resentment. I was coaching a client through this the other day. She's getting ready to make a couple of investment properties. And she's just like, it feels like a lot at once because it's going to require a lot of work. And I'm like, but if you have to spend the next couple of months working a lot of hours doing things you really enjoy to build a foundation that will fuel the rest of the vision, is that really overwork and burnout? Like, that's, I think, the question that comes up for so many people is we're like, but yeah, being a real estate investor requires work. Like, I can't just sit on my meditation pillow and manifest money. That's not what we're saying here, right? Like, but some people find joy in, you know, swinging a sledgehammer and demoing houses. Like, that's something that is really fulfilling for them. Flipping a home and putting it on the market and selling it to a family who's going to make it their home feels like $1 million to them. So yeah, they work their ass off to make that happen. But I think that is extremely different than burnout, misalignment, doing shit that you hate. So for any of you that this is the question that rolls through your head when you think about how do I want it to feel, when you're like, well, I don't want to feel lazy. Like, I don't want to not work. Yeah, okay, cool. That's okay. You don't have to do that. It's not just about like, you know, letting it land in your lap. If you want to be a painter, you got to make fucking paintings. You know, if you want to be a singer, you got to take singing lessons. But being energetically aligned with the identity of a singer is going to get you there much faster and present opportunities in a much better way than torturing yourself. So that's really, I think, a really important part of this when you think of how do I want it to feel, because that is a big question I know I had on my journey. And I'm sure some of that is coming up for you as well. So talking about moving beyond the metrics. And obviously we just talked about this in terms of feeling, but also like, what are the little things we can measure? Because the truth of the matter is, if you only give yourself big goals like client numbers, revenue marks, job titles, salary, bonus, like the really tangible things that we tend to set as goals in January, right? Or a number on a scale or something along those lines. Could you change the metrics? So I'm going to give you an example. This year, I did not give myself a weight goal. And this is maybe like the first time ever in my life, guys, that is not written down somewhere, right? Like, there's a number in my head, but I really try not to over associate with it. And so instead of focusing on, I want to work out 3 times a week, right? That means I have opportunities over and over and over again to win and celebrate, right? Like, amazing. I worked out once this week. Amazing. I worked out twice this week. Amazing. I worked out 3 times this week. I hit my goal for this week. Yay! yay, right? And then I get to start all over again next week. Do you know how much energetic potency is in that? Like the idea of, A, I'm celebrating my wins, which energetically feel good, but I actually feel like I'm making progress instead of just looking at the scale every day and being like, did I move? Did it move? Yes or no? Did it move? Yes or no? Did it move? Yes or no? Right? And you're either winning or you're not. And then you feel like shit based on the answer. Instead of, I'm really just going to focus on becoming somebody who really prioritizes their physical health. And the person who I believe prioritizes their physical health moves their body. And so I walk every day. I do that more for my mental health and creativity than I do for my physical body, but I'm not naive to the fact that it's helping my physical body. But like I box now, that's the current exercise. It might change 3 times a week. But again, it is very intentional. For me, this is the building of the identity, right? So it's really thinking through what are some other metrics that you can be, celebrating. If you are somebody who, you get really triggered easily with clients, like celebrating the wins of, I wasn't triggered by that person's feedback on da 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 da. I know that's a kind of maybe not a great example, but like, what are some of the things that you could celebrate that you really want to overcome? I had somebody once tell me like, I don't want to be so angry anymore. Right. So when she noticed herself not feeling anger over something that would have caused her anger previously, we called that a win, right? We started building a body of evidence for her brain to be like, yeah, no, I don't always respond angrily to my colleagues. Because that's what it was. She felt like she was being short with her colleagues and snapping, and she always felt like she sounded angry all the time. So every time she caught herself and got again her shoulders out of her ears and had a heart-to-heart conversation with somebody, that was a win. We put that in the win column, right? We have such all or nothing personalities that we're like, well, I'm either, at my goal weight or fat and ugly, like there's no in between, or I'm either kind to everybody like Jesus walks on water, or I'm a dick to everybody who walks into my office, like we tend to do extremes where what most of us want is some sort of balance of the two. So I think that's a really important part of like, what are some things that you can give yourself to track that give you other metrics other than just the big moments. I think that's so, so, so important, right? When goals lose their spark, I'm just revisiting my notes. We talked about the goal was never really yours, but I think this is one is important. We have a tendency when we get to this point in the year to decide whether or not we're going to hit the year, right? I talked a lot about this in lesson 1, right? We're like, well, I'm not 50% of the way there. So am I going to, instead of realizing that it's really not about time, it's about momentum and energy. So you can start a year from, God knows where and pick up momentum in a way that you could never possibly anticipate. But what we have a tendency to do is because we gave our goal and we gave ourselves 12 months to reach a goal, that we then put a whole lot of pressure on ourselves and decide we're just not going to hit it. And then we just go on continuing to tell the story if we're not going to hit it. And that's why the goals leave their spark. And I'm actually just realizing something right now. Derek's boss or the company he works for, they're encouraged to create 3-year plans, and they're personal, professional, all the things. So in December, Derek and I went to Sedona and we spent a weekend and we built a 3-year plan together, like for our lives. And at first I struggled with that because I was like, well, what about year 1? What about year 2? And Derek was like, no, we just need to keep revisiting it. And now it's like clicking. Why? Right? Because 12 months feels like a lot of pressure, right? But when I read that, like when I revisit those notes, because I revisited them the other day, when I revisit those notes, one of them being, I'm somebody who works out 3 days a week, that was on that document, which is so fun because I was not working out 3 days a week when I wrote that down. But, I don't feel so far behind, so it's almost kind of the placebo effect of like, well, I wrote down my goal, but I gave myself enough time to hit it. And so it doesn't feel like, oh, well, there's no way in hell I'm going to fit this. I'm so far behind. It gives me that space to create that possibility energetically, which is really, really powerful. So again, also checking in with yourself on that. Like, have you already decided there's no way in hell I'm going to hit that? And you've checked yourself out. And that's also why I'm giving you permission to recalibrate, because if we need to recalibrate something to something that feels really aligned and doesn't feel so big that you can't feel it, I think there's an opportunity for you there. Okay. So I want to wrap up with a couple of things around just goals in general is being okay with our goals changing. Again, all or nothing. We have a thing with that, right? We're like, I'm all in. I'm either a millionaire or I'm poor. I'm either so busy I can't breathe or I don't have a client, anywhere. Like we have a tendency to do that. And I really want you to be okay with things changing and ebbing and flowing. Like I love the concept of the 12-week year. And the way that if you've read that book, it's okay. It's an okay book, but I love the concept of like revisiting our stuff more often. When you start to do personal development work like you're doing as part of this program, you will grow very quickly. And when you grow energetically, it tends to happen exponentially. You start to build momentum and it's a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit until it's a fuck ton real fast, right? Like you're going to build momentum in a really beautiful way. And so as you build momentum, as your frequency rises, as you change your ideas and concepts and perceptions of the world, you're going to find that your vision changes more frequently now. So I also want to give you permission to drop those dead goals, things that you no longer work towards, things that you realize, hey, I bit off more than I could chew. I committed to that because so-and-so, like in this moment, I said yes to this thing because I thought it would get me where I wanted to go, but it's not actually what I want to do. Like, I really want you to give yourself permission to put down things that you picked up for whatever reason along the way, in the name of alignment, right? Because I think it's very normal when you go on this journey to find that your vision is changing faster and faster and faster than it used to in the past, because at every level, as you continue to grow and change, right? Again, your perception changes, opportunities change, you attract in different things, you see different things, and all of a sudden your vision looks very different. But we have a tendency to want to hang on really tight to that one thing we said we wanted because we said we would, instead of being like, oh, and feeling free to, like, if it doesn't excite you, it's not your vision, right? Before I was getting on the business therapy call earlier today, I'd watched a TikTok video where this woman had said, basically, if something is right for you, it gives you energy. Like, if something is right for you, it gives you energy. If it's not for you, it's going to feel heavy. It's going to feel hard. It's going to feel overwhelming. It's going to feel like, oh my God, that's so much fucking work. I have no idea when I'm going to get all that. Like, that is not it. That is not your vision. Your vision is, oh my God, could I possibly imagine what this would look? This is going to be amazing. This is going to be so fun. I have no fucking idea how I'm going to do it. But oh wow, like this, I can feel in my body that this is the thing. Like, it's so different in the way that it feels, right? So if something is right for you, it gives you energy. If it is not right for you, it will feel heavy. That's how you know. So feel free to put down the shit that is no longer serving you. Okay? Put it down. The final thing I'm going to end on is, what if I don't have a clear vision? Because there's one of you thinking right now, like, Ryan, I don't even know. Like, I hear you. It makes sense. I just feel so lost right now, or my work is not my passion, or I have been off track for so long that I don't even know. Like, I have conversations with clients like this quite a bit. You're not alone. So, and I think also the reason why you stopped casting vision was just, we get taught to do that. You just got caught up in it. It was just an energetic thing. So if you feel like I don't have vision right now, I want you to be very kind to yourself. Remember, there's no shame, there's no guilt, there's no drama here, right? It's just like, okay, no, I'm at the point where I can't get a clear picture of what I want outside of what I think I should want. And so what I'm really going to recommend for you is to really, start, like, I often talk to my clients about, like, manifesting your becoming, not manifesting things, right? Like, you're not manifesting clients, you're manifesting becoming an energetic match to the clients you want to work with, right? You're not manifesting money, you're manifesting becoming a woman who feels safe to hold more money, right? Like, you can just manifest your becoming of somebody who has clarity, right? Like, it's the same as that. Like, you don't have to just manifest the end result, the thing on the piece of paper. You can manifest becoming somebody who has a really clear vision. Like, what would that look like? What might that feel like? And play with that. Like, manifest becoming somebody who has a really clear vision and start asking questions from that space. I think would be really helpful for anybody who's feeling maybe a little stuck in the concept of, I don't have this big, beautiful vision other than a number or the really, tactical, tangible things, because I have not even, given this enough thought. It doesn't mean that this does not apply to you. It just means that what you're manifesting right now is becoming somebody with clarity, somebody with direction, somebody with focus. And what might that look like and feel like? And then we start making decisions from that lens. So I hope that that's helpful if anybody has that going on. So I'm just loving this series and the way it's coming together. I'm going to stop there. I'm like, I had a few more bullet points, but my gut tells me that we're going to come into those in the next sessions. So a few reminders, housekeeping things. Remember, if you want to win 7 days of one-on-one mentorship with me in my program called Energy Shift, you can win that. There are 2 spots to be won. By reviewing the podcast and by sharing this particular podcast series, just give me screenshots. You can be entered twice. And I'm going to give 2 spots away on Tuesday, July 1st. And so I'm really, really pumped about that experience. And the Facebook group is where we're taking a deeper dive into this. You can get into the hot seat coaching thread and ask your questions specifically. So join us over there. And then in lesson 3, we're going to continue on our journey. And then we're going to start talking a little bit about business therapy. This program, or this series, lends so well to the work we do inside of business therapy. So there's going to be an invitation for you coming in the next lesson. But I want you guys to remember what I told you in the first lesson, is to treat this like you paid for it. To treat this like transformation. Don't just allow this to be another thing that you listen to and say, oh yeah, I listened to about reclaiming my vision, but I never actually did the work, right? Like, I never actually sat down and really thought about the things. That is your invitation for you today. So we will see you in part 3 on Friday. See you then. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self Podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that. That's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours. And your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.